couple quick announcements before we get into our afternoon keynote. First of all, I want to thank all of our speakers for coming out today and donating their time to be a part of this. It's been amazing the response that we've got, and without them, I have no idea what kind of tin can event we would put on, so thank you. Secondly, we've had a lot of volunteers pitch in the last 2 days. They're walking around wearing red shirts, and we could not have done this without them as well. Through check-ins, through moderations, through helping pass mics around. So give them a round of applause, please. The after party's coming up at the end of the day. There's 2 drink tickets in your name badge. So please join us, celebrate, have a couple drinks, meet some good friends, and don't leave the end of the day without getting to know at least one more search marketer than you didn't know before. That's a quote from Word Time. I stole that. Thank you. We're going to have a survey going up next week sometime. Hopefully you'll all get a chance to fill it out. It will give us some great feedback since it's our first summit. There's a lot of things that we can improve on for next year. If you fill it out, please include your name and your email address if you want. We're going to do a drawing for a free ticket to the summit next year and a free membership as well. So please fill that out and give us your feedback, because we're actually going to read it and go through it and figure out what we can do better. So please do that. With that, I'm going to introduce Rand now. I'm not going to talk about Rand, I'm going to talk about me, and then we're going to do Rand. I figure he's probably been introduced 1,000 times, a couple hundred, I don't know. But I'm going to do something a little differently, and hopefully this will come back around full circle. I got started in search a long time ago, and it was pretty lean back then. We started in my dad's parents' spare bedroom with me and my brother and my father. And it was pretty lean times back then, and a lot of people didn't really understand search, and all we were trying to do literally was get people listed in search engines. And that was our KPI at the time. And the first couple years in search, we partnered with a couple agencies that both of those partnerships went horribly wrong. And thousands of dollars were lost, and the second one was really horrible because we lost a lot of revenue because that fell apart, which happened to coincide with the beginning of December, which was a really bad time to go through something like that, and we had to lay off some of our staff members, and one of which was my sister. So I got hit from the professional side and the personal side at that time, and it left me with this sort of jaded view of the 2 agencies and the people that I had known at the time that were in our industry. So it was kind of like looking at us through a funhouse mirror, and it wasn't a whole lot of fun. And I carried that jadedness around with me for several years. And then I stumbled across this guy in Seattle who was blogging and doing these videos and just had a positive influence on his whole community that he built. And so I started getting involved in the Moz community. I got to meet some great people like Darren Shaw, who's here today, and several others. And slowly through my participation there, I chipped away at my jaggedness and changed how I look at us as a community and us as marketers. And eventually, what happened is I became less jaded. I also became a father. I think that had something to do with it too. And I can honestly say that it's probably one of the least talked about accomplishments that Rand has had is building that community and the sharing and the encouragement that has gone on there all these years. And it's probably, at least in my opinion, one of the most impactful things that he's done. So thank you, Rand, for that. One more. I'll get it back now. Okay, so I might get it back. So with that, please give us a very, very warm welcome for Mr. Rand.
I realize that was an extremely kind introduction. Thank you so much. And thank you all for coming and to the MnSearch organization. I think it is phenomenal what you guys are building here in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. Just so impressive. And really, it's very, very heartwarming to see people connecting in this fashion, people learning together, people having this kind of a relationship. I think that many of you have probably been in other industries. I've seen a few, but I've never been in any other one. I always wanted to be like this. I love this. I think this is a great thing. And James, I realized I just gave you a hug, but I'm actually a little bit under the weather instead of totally. Anyway, so if I fist bump you instead of shake your hand, that's just me trying to prevent the spread of illness. Okay, so with that, we have a lot to get through, not a ton of time. So I want to talk about why content marketing fails. And as always, I have the ability to download this slide deck. So if you're worried, like, oh no, I missed that URL. Oh no, I didn't see that slide clearly. What was going on there? You can check that out, bit.ly/Moz content fail. And this URL will also be on the last slide of the deck in case you don't write it down either. So it is true, failure does suck, but actually the vast majority of content marketing efforts are going to fail. They're going to fail. Not just singular investments like we made this blog post or we put out this interactive graphic or whatever, but fail in terms of have no success over a concerted effort, an investment in content marketing, right? It kind of looks like this. You guys, you have that page, you're like, oh yeah, sweet, all right, how's it going? Oh, the spike of hope. Look, people are visiting. The Twitter is sending people to me. Facebook, I got a few likes, and there's the damn black eye. This is what the vast majority of stuff is. And there's actually a reason behind this, right? So you go and you invest with these great intentions, you're super excited about it, and you're going to launch and have all this excitement, and then it's just going to suck. It's going to suck. And you will have no idea why. I'm actually kind of sad that Satya Nadella is now CEO of Microsoft, because he just doesn't make faces like Ballmer. You can't achieve that with Satya. And in my experience, there are a few consistent reasons why content marketing efforts and investments fail time and time again. And that's what I want to walk through today. So the first one is that you believed the greatest myth content marketing ever told the world. When I say you, I don't actually mean the people in this room. I think you get it. But the people who hire you, your clients, your teams, your bosses, your CMO, your CEO, oftentimes they believe these myths, and this one in particular, right? They think that, oh yeah, let's just go on the internet and see what's up. Oh look, here's Twitter. There's a nice tweet from Kieran Flanagan. Let's just follow that, see what this post is all about. Oh look, global inbound marketing event. All right, well, now that I have read this post that I just clicked on, I should sign up for this nice free ebook download. It looks great. It's on the sidebar of the blog I'm reading. Yeah, let's sign up. And you know what? They have a contact form. And yeah, your blog post was good, so now is time I give you the money. So you're going to fill that out and click submit, and then I'm going to follow them on all their social networks, because that's what those buttons are for. What else would I do? You're laughing, but this is what people think about when they think content marketing. They think, me, caveman publisher, cool, content, human click, you get money. Insanity. It's insanity, but this is how people think about content marketing. Just 1, 2, 3. Now, in reality, it works more like this, right? Like, okay, let's go see what's on the web. I'm going to check out Hacker News. I'm going to check out Facebook. There's nothing there. It's just baby pictures now. Twitter. Yeah, I don't see anything I like. You know what? This Google Plus post actually sounds kind of interesting. Business lessons from startups creating lifestyle brands. I've always kind of been fascinated by lifestyle brands. I don't know much about them. Yeah, maybe I'll check it out, right? Like, I'll give this a click and see. How many was that? I probably scrolled in what, 90 seconds through 400 or more potential links that I could have clicked. And I clicked one of them. One. And if you guys are anything like me, which I suspect you are, this is how you use the web, right? You're like looking through your streams across whatever social media, whatever blogs you read, whatever things you might be exposed to, and maybe, you're going to click one. One. So here we go. This is that article. Okay, Urban Beardsman 007. All right. 0 to 60K a month in less than a year. This is fascinating. This beard brand thing. This sounds pretty cool. And then, you know what? A week later, because I actually ended up following them. I think I ended up following them on Google+. And so I caught a link to their blog. This is their blog. I can't say what it is, but like something really resonated. This blog, it just like spoke to me. I felt like this connection deep in my soul. So I actually ended up watching a video from them that they posted on Google Plus about how to grow a full, thick, dense beard. I don't know if you guys saw me in like January or February, but I was sporting a very homeless look. It was interesting. So like 1 or 2 months, I was telling someone at lunch, like 1 or 2 months into beard growth, a lot of people start to offer to sell me marijuana. And then like 2 more months into beard growth, they want to buy marijuana from me. But in any case, I want to get rid of the scraggliness and get that like, real mountain man kind of beard thing going like Eric has there. It's beautiful. Well, it turns out there's no magic trick. So after watching the video, I kind of got through that. And I didn't want to try the beard oil thing, so I ended up trimming my beard. I kept my mustache up. Right? So, all right. Now, it turns out, this is probably 2 months later. 2 months later, I am going to a wedding. My friend and our former head of SEO, Ruth Burr, got married to a guy and they moved to Oklahoma, and now she's working there. But Geraldine saw my mustache and was like, dude, you're going to need some mustache wax. And so I thought to myself, there's my lovely wife, there's the imminent need for mustache wax. I thought to myself, like, oh, wait, I just heard about a company that makes cool beard stuff. I was totally into them. What? Who was that? So I ended up doing a search. I searched on Google, right? I did a search for urban beard style. That was like what I could remember. That's not it. Yes, that guy, I know that guy. Curse Google for taking these pictures out of the results. That's how I figured out that was the right guy. Man, just so mean. Anyway, so there you go. I found them. Now I go to their website and, what? Well, looky here. Mustache wax trio. Try all 3 cents. I think I will. And I did. There you go. $27.35 later. It's coming to my office. Great. Fantastic. Perfect. I got some mustache waxing. I didn't put enough in this morning, so it's a little bushy. But, I'm trying to get rid of these bushy handlebar things. Anyway. Point being, what happened? What was the journey that we just experienced? Right? It was long, nearly impossible to track. The beard brand will have no possible way to know that their inclusion in that one article, which led me to follow them on Google+, which led me to see their video, which they can't track, right? They can't connect that up to the visit that I made to their website. All they saw was the single search. But if they didn't do content marketing, the blog, the videos, right, the being featured in press, I never would have found them. I never would have bought from them. I might not even have bought mustache wax at all, actually. But they did, so I did. Okay. I'm going to put on a Halloween costume from many years ago and then explain this to you. Because, yes, I really did this just for the presentation. I'm ridiculous. I'm a crazy person. Okay, maybe my brand will explain. So, basic story, right, is like, we make contact. Humans click. Them like, and remember. Maybe they'll see more. Like what? Visit again. Maybe build trust, relationship with human. When they need product, they'll come back by. It is not a direct path. It is a long, winding path. You're going to lose 90% of your audience through this path. Content marketing is a winding road. It is not a direct investment. Correct. So, content marketing is not about the first visit, the second visit, the third visit. It's not about converting people directly from the content. It is about building a relationship, building trust, forming a connection, forming memory. It's the same reason that companies have done branding and marketing for 100 years. This is what content marketing is for, right? Dear God. That's, even I think I look insane. So maybe it's the case that that sale is going to come. Maybe it's not going to come. Maybe I'll be able to track it. Probably I will not be able to track it. Right? My goal is increased brand awareness. My goal is increased overall, is the metrics that for many years we've talked about ignoring, right? Raw traffic, raw ability to influence social followers and fans and friends and plus oneers. And this is hard for us because we are a data-driven industry, and we have been for so long, and we've been able to measure so tightly our investments from SEO, especially before keyword not provided, right? You could see this person searched these 4 things. They came here, on average 6 times to our website. Then they converted. This is what our tracking looks like. This is hard for us, man. It is hard to make these serendipitous investments, and it's hard to maintain them. Very hard to maintain. But, in fact, the challenge here is not, well, we know what we're doing, but those clients and CMOs and our marketing teams and our CEOs, those guys are idiots. That's the easy way to think about this. The right way to think about it, right and easy almost never overlap. I think you figured that out after you leave your 20s. That the obligation's on us, on marketers, to set expectations. Number 2, second big content fail that I see. You made content with no community behind it, with no one who cares about helping to share or amplify that content. So, a lot of people have this myth in their head that if content's really, really good, then people, it'll just spread naturally, right? This is total bullshit. The degree to which this is bullshit cannot be explained. It is just a complete myth. There is no, this content is so good. Actually, there is, but it's so incredibly rare, we just happen to be biased by all that. I'll talk about that in a second. All right, so most content is spreading because it has a great community behind it. Now, this is not to say that this blog post about the hidden autism community is a bad post. It's not. But it is not content that's just so amazingly good that it's going to naturally sail across the web. Why did it sail across the web? Why does it have thousands of people liking it and sharing it on Facebook? Because these people care incredibly deeply. It is a close issue to their hearts. It's very personal to them. And it means something, right? It means something very big in their lives. Most of the people who are sharing this are either connected to or friends with or have children and families with autism. That's tough and hard, but that is going to make content like this spread. There is a community behind this content. Some content reinforces a belief, right? So for example, for those of you with kids, right, I bet this article resonates. That electronic gadgets, oh man, it should be banned for kids under 12. Wow, there's research to back this up. Oh man, this article is going to go all over the place, especially on Facebook, right, which is where families and people with kids connect. So, but if this were highly credible research, probably would not be in a publication you've never heard of. I'm not saying it's not, but they're stretching it. They're stretching it. It doesn't matter, though. They wisely found a little thing they could grab onto, wrote a great headline, and of course, there's a community of people who care about this behind it. Some content refutes an opposing argument. So Slate, I think, was brilliant. What they saw when Twitter released their quarterly earnings numbers in April of this year, right? And all the press, right? The Wall Street Journal and I think TechCrunch and a bunch of other people were like, hey, the analyst estimates for growth in particular, not revenue growth, but user trajectory growth, was slower than anticipated. And so what did they all come out with? They all came out with articles saying Twitter's dead. Twitter's dead. And Slate was like, you know, I think they also said there's 300 million active people on Twitter. Do you think some of them would want to say that their community where they share content and connect with people is not dead? And so they made this, and of course it performed wonderfully well, right? Sales all across, especially Twitter, because it refutes an argument that the Twitter community dearly wants to refute. Smart. Smart content. Community behind. Some content renews a passionate discussion. Right, so this is my personal blog, right? And I wrote about how queries and clicks might be influencing Google's rankings, and ran some tests around this, and of course ignited a bunch of discussion and debate and more testing and all sorts of stuff in the SEO field. This, I think, starting a passionate debate inside a community you know cares about that is a great way to get a community behind content as well. Some content performs well because it's in someone's financial or promotional interest. So this, I mean, Team Fathom, right? Fathom's like a travel site. They're super smart. When they list the 24 best travel blogs and websites, which I think they do every 6 months or something now, might be every year, what happens? Well, the 24 people who are on that list go crazy sharing the crap out of this to their audiences. And what do you think the people who are not on this list do? They complain bitterly on Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and their blogs that they are not on this list. It's a win-win, right? Like, Fathom is now known and shared all over the place. Right? Very, very impressive. Smart. This piece of content, how many of you took this quiz, the New York Times language quiz? A few people did. So, okay, this was the most visited page on the New York Times website, apart from their homepage, in 2013. The most popular one. It wasn't even made by the New York Times editorial team. There was an intern who worked with one of the researchers to make the quiz. An amazing story behind this, but it's pretty awesome. You know, they ask you questions like, how would you address a group of 2 or more people? I always say y'all, because I think it's the only gender-inclusive plural pronoun that I know, and so I like it even though it's a colloquialism. I don't know who says use. Does anybody here say use? Where are you from?
Northern Wisconsin.
Northern Wisconsin. Fascinating. So there's did I just out you in enemy territory? Is that probably unwise. It was Lee. Lee says use. Okay, so this piece of content did tremendously well. Why? Because of group inclusion dynamics. In case you haven't noticed, human beings love classifying other human beings. So many of you have probably seen, right, that there's no legitimate research at all behind the personality types, the whatever IFGD or whatever. But we love them because we love to classify by racial background, ethnicity, religion, by who we want to sleep with, by what we wear. We just cannot get enough of classifying people. And being part of a group or not part of a group and saying things about other groups, this plays to natural human dynamics as well. And so this piece of content fits right in there and has, of course, many communities behind it. Very cool. Some content makes its way around the web because it makes those who share it look smart, look good to their audiences, right? So this, I think this is actually a fascinating diagram, very simplistic, but compressed well, and compressed information, of course, manages to be amplified much more easily than non-compressed information. So showing off world populations, right? Richard Tolker here says, right, the #1 population on the planet is China, then India, then Facebook, Tencent, WhatsApp, then the United States. I guess, given that WhatsApp has more people on it than the United States has in it, maybe $19 billion isn't such a ridiculous price to pay. That's fascinating. It is often the case, in my experience, that what we would call like, well, it's not great content, but it's good enough content. Makes its way across the web fantastically well when it has a community behind it. Kickstarter is the perfect example of this. This is ex-Googler Dan Shapiro, right? He sold a company to Google, worked there for a couple of years, I think quit like right on his 2-year anniversary, and then made this game for his kids. He wanted to teach his kids the basics of programming. And there, I think, his twins are 5 or 6. And so Dan made Robot Turtles. His kids liked it, he put it on Kickstarter, and Dan likes to say, when he put it up here, there was no product. There was a cardboard piece of a box and some little things that he had cut out. That was the only product that existed when he put this piece on Kickstarter. And so he said, how do they know that they want to donate, $600,000 to the the top grossing board game of all time on Kickstarter now? How did they know? Well, they didn't. What they knew is, we are people who are passionate about kids learning to program. That's what the people who funded this do. That's why they were investing. Because they cared deeply about their kids learning to program, and this spoke to them. And of course, Dan, who worked at Google and is in the startup world, has connections to startuppers and engineers and people who might be interested in that. Hence the community behind us. This is the culprit. This is the bad guy. This is our enemy. This is the piece of content that convinces the world that all content has to be is good enough, incredibly amazing, and will sail across the web, because some content does. And in fact, a lot of the content that we get exposed to, because it's been so incredibly well shared, is stuff like this. So this really is quite phenomenal, right? So this is a programmer who put this together on his own blog. He wanted to compare the vocabulary use of different words, right? The breadth and depth of vocabulary of various hip-hop artists compared to literary geniuses, right? So here's Shakespeare, right? And then, I think Old Dirty Bastard is right there. And there's the Wu-Tang Clan, right? Moby Dick is here, and then, RZA. And you're like, damn, Wu-Tang Clan. That is a lexicon to be impressed by. Seriously, those guys have incredible chops when it comes to vocabulary depth and breadth, right? So this is looking at the first 35,000 lyrics on their first album, 2 albums. Amazing. And this made its way around the web like nobody's business, despite the fact that this programmer who wrote it didn't really do anything. It got submitted to Hacker News, it made the front page, it was #1 for a while, and then it went to Reddit, and then it went to BuzzFeed, picked it up, and it just Huffington Post, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. This content, this is the 1 in 1,000. This is the 1 in 1,000 that makes its way around the web. If you bet your marketing on the fact that your content is just going to be good enough, rather than having a community behind it who cares about sharing it, it will fail. At least 999 times, it will fail. And that sucks. Number 3. Before we get to that, so my action item for this is, before you go and create content, when you have the idea of any piece of content, or a content strategy overall, please be asking yourself, who is going to share and amplify this and why? If you don't have a great answer for that, don't make it. Don't make it. Okay. A lot of people invest in content, but they don't invest in the amplification of that content. They don't think about how to promote and push it out. They think that the last step in content marketing is the publish button, or maybe the tweet button. No way, man. Amplification is critical. So if content is going to reach its potential, it has to first reach people. That means at the very least, you need to have that headline in the stream of people who potentially might pick it up. And so, one of the most important parts of that process is, doing the research. Is this for me? Thank you. We're a thoughtful gentleman here. And is thinking about where your audience actually exists, right? And so this is, this chart from Business Insider Intelligence. I mean, I would urge you to think beyond just financials, but you can see the distribution of who at various income levels is on different social networks. And you can do this by all kinds of demographics and psychographics and interest groups. This research is actually reasonably easy to get at. Right? Now, most of the amplification methods that I see fall into one of three buckets. In fact, nearly all of them. And those are broadcast, one-to-one, and paid promotion. So when I'm talking about broadcast, what I mean is I am going to amplify this out to a broad group of people who might see it. So, I broadcast, for example, Whiteboard Fridays, so like tweeting it out and putting it on my Facebook page, putting it on my LinkedIn, putting it on Google+. Right? Other amplification methods like email. So Moz, over the years, we built an email list for the Moz Top 10, right? And that goes out every 2 weeks, reaches tons of people. This top article, I think on average, will get somewhere between 10 and 20,000 visits when the email goes out, right? Because there's like 250,000 people subscribe to this. That's pretty cool, right? It's a broadcast mechanism for amplifying content. And by the way, we don't just share Moz content. I think probably some of you in the room are subscribed. In fact, I think we always try and make it 4 or fewer links are anything about Moz or on Moz's website, and 6 are about or from other folks. Some is one-to-one outreach. So Larry, who's here today, you're a genius. So Larry is a genius, right? Like, first off, he put together in my opinion, is a very brave, very forward-thinking piece of content, and that was about gender biasing, trouble gender biasing in our industry. Basically, they looked at the metrics behind how their female ad account managers, right? How their female ad account managers were performing metrics-wise versus male account managers performing-wise, and then they looked at what the clients of those managers actually said about their performance. And of course, the disparity was very frustrating, right? And that women account managers were actually performing better by all the metrics, but were rated lower by clients, and were rated lower, I think, even by women as well as men, which is sad. But in any case, a piece of content that I care deeply about, and what Larry do? He sent me an email. Because not only is this something that Larry might surmise that I care about, but he also noted that he used Moz research, right? Building on research conducted by Moz in our recent industry survey. Super smart. One-to-one outreach. I went and amplified this on every social channel that I had. Every single one. This one too, right? So on Google Plus and on LinkedIn and on Twitter, you can mention somebody and get their attention, right? One-to-one outreach saying like, hey, Ollie, I really want you to read this article. I think you and the Unbound team are going to love it, right? And maybe they will. You guys can't see him, but he's underneath you. If you were to fall through the floor, you'd fall on Ollie. Don't do that. And then 3, paid amplification, right? So paid amplification, right? There's promoted tweets and page posts from Facebook. There's all the stuff from Outbrain now, right, where you can get listed. You can have your article, your content listed at the bottom of other articles on a lot of press and newspapers and stuff. Post ads on Google Plus came out recently. There's even stuff like sponsored links on Reddit. So lots of opportunities for paying to be in front of you. This is the process that I like to use. It's a simplistic process. But it doesn't take much time, and therefore when I'm creating content and amplifying it, I can do it. So number 1, I like to go and look for successful content that's in my niche. So here's, this tool is BuzzStream, or BuzzSumo, and BuzzSumo is excellent, right? So I did a search. I'm going to pretend that I've re-entered the world of consulting for some reason, and I'm helping a dentist, right? Some content marketing. And so I'm going to search for teeth. 33 before and after photos that prove good teeth can change your entire face. I don't even need to look at the URL. I know where it's from. Yeah, it's surplus views. My God, it's like just a caricature of themselves. But 75,000 Facebook likes, look at that. I mean, people care about teeth. All right. And BuzzFeed was able to tap into that, right? Now, granted, they have a nice network, but this is the start of this process. And then I like to find out where it's being shared, which BuzzSumo will also show me. So the link there, right? And then I can look at not just the social networks, right? But I'm going to do a Google search to look at who are all the publications that picked up this content and amplified it, right? Because it's not just social, like many of these are blogs and news sources. I want to figure out who they are because those are the journalists or the bloggers that I should be talking to. And likewise, I can go into something like Crash Web Explorer, or if you use like Mention.net or TalkWalker, right? And I can see who are all the people who linked to that piece of content, wherever it was. So, cool. Then I'm going to find out who is doing the sharing. So, what's being shared, where it's being shared, and who is sharing it. So this is Google Plus Ripples, and I can see this Family Dental Center appears to have a nice Google Plus following. They're getting some people to share and reshare that. I can look at this up for Twitter. The only one you can't see this for, really, of course, is Facebook, because most of the sharing there is private. This is, by the way, right in BuzzSumo. I feel like I should just get a cut of their revenue. I pimp them out all day. I love that tool. I'm not connected to them, by the way. I think it's just two guys in the UK who totally rock. And they actually have this system where you can see who's shared a given piece of content right inside their UI. So pretty slick. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to identify any gaps in opportunity, right? Places where I think, hey, these social shares are all following these people. That's my start of my influence. I want to find what they're missing out on. I want to find pieces of content that they might not be sharing or that they're sharing and no one has claimed and no one's amplified. This is like my opportunities analysis. Now that I've gone through this process, I just want you to keep in mind a couple other things. One is when you are doing your own sharing, whether that is one-to-one outreach, whether that's amplification, a broadcast, whatever it is, paid amplification, well, paid amplification is a little different, but please be generous. Being generous, helping other people is one of the ways we've been most successful with our community building. So Moz Top 10 is actually a great example of that. By sharing lots of links from other people, what happens? Those people feel another big psychological principle, right? Reciprocation bias, which is, right, like Jeff takes me out to dinner and helps me with, I think you helped me with Geraldine's like WordPress site a few years ago. I'm like, if he asks me for something, I'm going to do it. If he says, hey, you should come to Minneapolis and speak at this search thing, I'm going to be like, I am there. I am there. This is that principle. So as you're doing this sharing, it feels very unnatural. For many businesses, it feels extremely unnatural to share work from other people. And yet, it is essential. Essential. All right. I like to think of each channel that I use, every amplification and one-to-one channel, I like to think of them as a muscle. You can see I've never actually worked out. I did a push-up once. They're hard. But my push-ups, right, are sharing on Google Plus and publishing on my blog and sharing on Facebook and doing my tweeting. And if I exercise those muscles on a regular basis, daily, weekly basis, I get better at them. I identify trends. I see this didn't work, this does work. This person is likely to amplify me, this person isn't. When I share at this time, it works. When I share at that time, it doesn't. When I talk about these topics, it works. When I talk about these, it doesn't. This is how you do workouts for amplification. All right. Number 4. I know you don't do this, but oh my God, so many people do this. Right? They do content marketing without SEO. So you're probably aware, right, that Google search has just grown massively. A lot of that is mobile, but a ton of it actually is desktop as well. The last 3 years, I think, we saw a dip in 2011 of desktop search, I think as mobile was kind of going crazy. And then the last 3 years, we've actually seen double-digit, 10 to 15% year-over-year increases in desktop US search volume. Remarkable. right? And we're now hovering somewhere in the six-ish billion range of searches done per day. So just a massive amount. Search traffic is incredibly distributed, right? 20%, 18% now of all the searches that we perform, that everyone performs on Google, Google has never seen before. Like, we are the weirdest, most magical, unique snowflakes in the world once we get in front of that search bar. We just go crazy. Social is totally different. Social basically looks like an income distribution graph in the US. Top 1%, 5%, 10%, bottom 75% of social shares. If you think about that, what you realize is only the very best content, or the content that's done a great job getting a community behind it, is driving those shares. Search, on the other hand, highly distributed. And you might have seen some of this, forgive my, like, complete bullshit, right? From, I think it was Recode did this, and then was it BuzzFeed picked it up, right? Of course, that this is the year Facebook blew past Google. No, this was published, I think, in February of this year. Just complete crap. Do you know what their source was for this? Their source was BuzzFeed is getting more traffic from Facebook than Google. My God, sample size of effing 1? That's how you do research? That's how you know it's the year? This is just their own traffic. It's unreal. And BuzzFeed does not do a good job of SEO. Right? Like, intentionally doesn't do a great job of SEO. Okay, well, maybe unintentionally, I'm not sure. So Define Media Group, who works with 87 of the largest publishers in the US, looked at 48 billion page views and saw what? That search drives about 40 to 50% of traffic. Social is still under 20%. Search is growing almost as fast as social is growing. And these are for publishers, right? These are for people like the New York Times, like the Boston Globe. This is very strong evidence that search is not done. Search is also critical because of intent, right? This is do things mode. I want this thing right now. Social is more like browse mode, right? So I'm always stunned when I go to Pinterest and it's like extremely skinny people and very fatty foods. It's a weird irony of Pinterest. You guys know this well, right? When content and SEO are done well and done together, content can be this rising tide that lifts all the ships on a domain. Right? So if I have content on a domain and I produce some content and it gets links, it gets shares, it gets attention and awareness, builds my brand, the next time I produce content, I will have a bigger audience to reach. I will have more domain authority with which to rank. It's wonderful, right? It lifts up these ships, puts them onto the waves. And I think this is a beautiful process, but it takes time, right? And you have to get into that cycle, and you have to have that success and get those links and that authority before it'll work. All right. So at the very least, what I encourage folks, particularly folks who are like not deep in the SEO world, to do is just do a little bit of keyword research. AdWords new planner is not wonderful, but I actually I have a tool that I like even better than Uber suggests. It's called keywordtool.io. I apologize, it's not in the presentation. So if you haven't checked them out, I think keywordtool.io is a really good search suggest research tool that you can look into. It's weird because the TLD or the extension is .io. And I urge folks who maybe are showing this to people in the content world who haven't dived into SEO, you can point them to these links to get a better, deeper understanding of how content and SEO works. All right, number 5, last one. So we have this impression, right, that a site that's phenomenal at distributing content, right? Maybe you're looking at Kissmetrics, right? And you're like, man, Kissmetrics, how did they get their content that's so successful? Like, they popped onto the radar 2 years ago, and they've just been a wild success ever since. But that's not the truth, is it? Right? Like, Neil and Keaton had several ventures, some of which did okay, some of which did not do so okay. over the years, and they've been investing in content marketing for a decade. And you think they got good at it overnight when they launched Kissmetrics. That's not the case. This is what it really looked like. Upworthy. Upworthy looked like it was an overnight success, but in fact what it was years of investment in digital content creation and promotion from the founders of Upworthy, who created, same story by the way with BuzzFeed, right? They left other publications, they knew what they were doing. It's not up and to the left, it's not a straight line. This has been true for Moz as well. Have any of you ever watched the first Whiteboard Friday? That is when you will learn what the word powerfully sucking looks like. Powerfully sucking. Like you look, and I'm just holding a whiteboard, and like the lighting is terrible, the camera's awful, it's all fuzzy, you can barely hear it, and I'm like, hey, you point this redirect over here. And, actually, I was young, so I probably had like teenage pizza face guy from The Simpsons voice. I was like, no, Mr. Simpson, you just need to point your 301 over here, and you'll redirect the link juice. But high school was a bad time. Right? In reality, success looks more like this. Right? This is Geraldine, my wife's travel blog that she runs. She writes about things like Bavaria, land of drunk babies. And she started her site back in 2009. And produced content 5 nights a week, 5 days a week, for years. So the tough part here to grasp is that for many of those years, 2 of those years, she never broke 100 visits in a day. Into 2011, she never had more than 100 visits a day. This is like 30, 40, 50 visits a day. I remember when it was just one of her friends from her old job and me reading the book. and then like, okay, 100 visits a day, not quite. She did have a couple of successes, right? Like a couple of posts. These are basically, if you were to look at them compressed more, right? They're like big 1 or 2 day spikes. And then traffic fell right back down. That, right there, that's where everybody gives up. That's where everybody stops investing in content production or marketing of any kind, right? They have a little bit of success after a long investment, and then they fall back down and they go, you know what? I'm out. This is not working. This is not for me. That's the give up point. But look what happened. Look at that. I mean, it's just amazing. Just absolutely remarkable. She recently signed a book deal and is in Cambodia doing some research for that book. And yeah, the blog has taken off. It's just been incredible. And I'm very proud of her. I'm also frustrated with her because she refuses to do SEO. she won't do it. But what she has learned is what content works for her audience, how to amplify that content a little bit, and then she has built a community over these years that now amplify all that content on her behalf. That's pretty remarkable. My experience has been that the price of success is failure after failure after failure, with one caveat, that every one of those failures is an opportunity to learn and apply that learning next time. That's what makes us good at content marketing or any marketing investment over the long run. And so when you talk to somebody about, hey, we're going to make this investment in content marketing, you better also prepare them for the fact that we're going to experience probably a long time where it won't work. A long time where it won't work, and then we're going to learn, just like everyone else who enters this field. All right, with that, thank you very much. You can find the URL.
Two questions? Okay, time for 2 questions.
I can go rapid fire. It's totally fine. Yes, hi.
So I had to notice that on your wife's blog there was, nothing, and then all of a sudden there was this huge spike. Did something change other than the content?
It's a slower spike than it looks like because of the years. But yes, there's like a spike here that gets sustained. So Time picked up her blog, listed it as one of the 10 best travel sites of 2011 or 2012 or whatever. And that sent a big spike of people to her blog. The weird thing was none of them left. Like, they just kept coming back again and again and again. They basically turned into addicts, or a very high proportion of them did. And a small proportion of those turned into amplifiers. So essentially she had a spike that turned into subscribers and amplifiers, and that's what's kind of sustained a lot of growth ever since. Okay. Yes, hi.
Do you specifically choose to wear that shirt because you're in Minnesota?
Did I? Or because my last name is Fishkin? Yeah. No, so actually, I think someone tweeted at me that this was their favorite shirt I had worn on Whiteboard Friday with the hashtag MnSummit. So I was like, okay, I got back that. So I didn't bring the yellow shoes, so I had to at least bring y'all's favorite shirt.
Y'all's.
Very personal question. But, thank you. And I apologize, did I miss anybody up top?
Anybody else? One more quick one?
All right, well, cool. I'm actually going to be around all day, so you're welcome to grab me. I'm going to be at the mixer tonight, so yeah. Thank you so much for coming.